French wine doesn't have to be expensive to be good. There's so much more to the country than just first growth Bordeaux, rare Burgundies that only billionaires can afford. In terms of fine wine production, France is the original mecca. There's so many different types of wines being made there. That's why it's still such an exciting country for wine production. One of the most diverse, dynamic, and value for money regions is the Languedoc Roussillon. The Languedoc Roussillon is actually two regions, the Languedoc and the Roussillon. They're completely separate, but they're clumped together as one. There are about 200,000 hectares of vineyards between the two, so that's a quarter of France's plantings. In the past, it was known for a lot of cheap, inexpensive bulk wine. However, things are changing today with younger generation, with producers focusing more on quality. There's a lot of great stuff being made. Everything from sparkling wines to dry whites to big, bold reds to great sweet wines. The Languedoc is probably the most diverse region of the two. You get everything from Atlantic varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, to more Rhone varieties like Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. Also have some interesting white grapes. The Roussillon is the land of Grenache, Grenache Blanc, Grenache Gray, and Grenache Noir. It's a distinctive culture in itself. It's a Catalan culture. It's right on the border of Spain. Even though the region is much smaller than the Languedoc, I do feel like the wines have a certain signature, although they're usually higher in alcohol. I've been going to this part of southern France a lot in the recent years, and every time I go, it gets me more and more exciting. Today, I have a selection of 10 wines that are distinctive, delicious, and offer value for money. None of the dry wines here top $25. The sweet wine does, but sweet wine, it's an exception, okay? You ready? Let's get tasting. Don't have to blind taste today, just got one glass and one glass to do it all. This is my Gabriel Glas Standart edition. Love this glass. My favorite universal glass that I've ever used. I have a link in the description box if you want to check it out. Helps the channel if you purchase with that link, so thank you. Let's start out with some bubbles, shall we? We're gonna start in the Languedoc and gradually shift ourselves over to the Roussillon. First up, we have Limoux. Limoux is actually the birthplace of sparkling wine, not champagne. The original sparkling wine from Limoux is called Blanquette de Limoux Method Ancestrale. That's basically where wine is put in the bottle where the fermentation has not finished. The fermentation finishes in the bottle. That's why you get bubbles. I actually went to the Abbey where the monks first discovered that wine. There's a rumor that Dom Perignon actually went there to study the production, or at least witness the production. I don't know if it's true or not. You can make still wines in Limoux, but you can make 3 different types of sparkling wines. The Method Ancestrale that I just talked about. You also have Cremant de Limoux with varieties like Chardonnay, Chenin Blanc. Some of these wines offer tremendous value for money and can be quite champagne-esque at a fraction of the price. This is the Delmas Tradition Brut. This is a Blanquette de Limoux. This is a different category of sparkling wine. Blanquette is another name for the local grape Mauzac. Mauzac is the principal variety in Blanquette de Limoux. In recent years, French laws have allowed more Chardonnay and Chenin Blanc to be added to make wines to more international tastes. This comes in at $17. Blanquette de Limoux are made by the champagne method, second fermentation in the bottle. This is one of my favorite producers of sparkling Limoux. You bring one of these bad boys to the party, you're going to be able to start a lot of conversation. Say, actually, did you know that sparkling wine was invented here, not in Champagne? Open a champagne bottle I've talked about before. I'm going to try to do it with as little noise as possible. First, you undo the cage here. You want to make sure the wine is super cold, otherwise the top is just going to blow off. You grab the cork, you grab the bottle at a 45-degree angle, and you start to turn it, and you'll see. Oh. Faster than I wanted to. Usually you want it to go out with as little pressure as possible. At least it didn't explode. Okay. I just had a long day of weed whack in the yard, moving some furniture. I am ready for a bottle of bubbles. Let's take a look here. Nice bead of bubbles. Smells great. Mauzac has this piney type note that sometimes can bother a lot of people. This is more modern, doesn't smell 100% like Mauzac. There is some pine, there's some lemon, lime type flavors. It almost reminds me of the soda Sprite with a little bit of pine needle, just a touch, and a little bit of baked bread note. You definitely pick that up from the Lee's Contact. Fine bead of bubbles. This is crisp. This is just delicious. Not the most complex sparkling wine in the world, but a lot of fun. This you bring to a barbecue. It's a talking point. Everybody's gonna enjoy it. I'm a solid 88 points on it. I think it's really good, and I'm gonna take a sip of it. Very solid 88. There's even a hint of complexity on the back end. It's not just a simple fruity sparkler. We're moving on to a white wine that is great with shellfish, but is also great with cheese, any other type of fish. We're talking about Picpoul de Pinet. Picpoul de Pinet is an appellation right on the Mediterranean Sea. It's a smaller appellation. It's almost like the Muscadet of the South. Picpoul de Pinet is actually made of the grape that's called Picpoul. The region's dominated by cooperatives, so you're gonna get wines at great prices. I have here the Domaine Fontemar Noir. This is the Picpoul de Pinet 2021. This comes in at a whopping 12 bucks. You're going to be able to find them. They're made fresh, they're easy, they're delicious. I feel like they have a little more fruit character than Muscadet. Muscadet sometimes can be a bit austere and too mineral for a lot of people. I know they're trying to change the image of the appellation. It's only a wine for oysters, although it's great with oysters. Though it's great with cheeses, already foods. Deep yellow color for a fresh wine. I actually had one time a picnic with the appellation of Picpoul de Pinet and a couple of the cooperatives. We had a bunch of shellfish, oysters. That was a wonderful evening. I have a little vlog video about it. I'll put in the link in the description below. It actually has some Limoux producers in it too. This is a wine for 12 bucks. Way past its price point. Lime, baked apple, even touch a banana mango type deal. It's a lot fruitier than I remember a lot of Picpoul wines. It's gonna have high acid though. Let's see here. On the nose, super fruity. On the palate, super mineral and seawater-like. Good thing about this wine, doesn't have piercing acidity like a lot of Picpouls, but I think it's outstanding. Hold on. Wine gonna go great with a lot of hard, soft cheeses. Has so much acidity. It's just delicious wine. I'm a solid 88 points on it, and for a $12 wine, I was expecting a heck of a lot less. If you want to try something unique, this is a great barbecue wine, especially during the hot summer days. Next up is an appellation I scream about. We're talking about Corbières. It's an appellation known for big reds, but I'm talking about Corbières Rosé. This is the Château Auris. This is the Corbières Rosé 2022, 15 bucks. I'm not gonna taste this because I actually tasted this on my Rosé blind tasting video, and this did exceptionally well, so I'm not gonna spoil it for you. What you have to know in Corbières, there's the same grape varieties you're gonna find in Provençal Rosé. So Cinsault, Mourvèdre, Grenache, Syrah. Quality across the board is exceptional. I've been going to the Languedoc Roussillon every year for the last couple years. Usually do a big tasting of Corbières Rosé, and almost all of them are exceptional. I'm just blown away. In France, you can get some of them for 5-6 euros. You want the typical characteristics of a good Southern French rosé in terms of strawberry, watermelon flavors, just a little bit of that creamsicle type note. Long finish, they are mineral driven. I think they're absolutely delicious. They're wines that you need to seek out. A lot of times people are intimidated if you see an appellation. Not all producers in an appellation are good. I think if you see a Corbières Rosé on the shelf, it's going to be good no matter what. I think it's worth giving a shot. Okay, we're switching over to red wines. We're switching to an appellation called Cabernet. Languedoc is really unique because most of the region is in the Mediterranean. As you head a little bit more west, it starts to move into continental type weather, maritime weather. It's actually not super far from Bordeaux, so of course you're going to have Cabernet varieties. Cabernet, you can have Atlantic varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot. You can also have the Mediterranean varieties, Grenache, Syrah. This is the Domaine de Cabrol. This is the Requieu Cabernet 2019. This is 20 bucks. This is 40% Cabernet Sauvignon, 50% Syrah, 10% Grenache. Use my trusty Corvin here. Cabernet wines in the past were a little bit too big, too oaky. Nowadays, producers are really changing it, trying to make more drinkable wines. I love this producer. This is their entry-level wine. They make some other top wines, like this is the Venta S. This is a Cabernet, half Cabernet Franc and half Syrah. This is 35 bucks. This is excellent. It's a little more expensive, so I wanted to show wines that were under $25. Let's give this a smell here. Gorgeous smell. So unique to be blending Cabernet and Grenache, and I like that, just the nose. A nice mix of black cherry, yet red raspberry. You have like a little bit of this waxy type note. A little bit of pepper. Meat, really complex for a $20 wine. Medium to full body mouth coating. The tannins, because you're in the south, are real pliant. They really coat the palate. They massage the palate. They're not too chewy. Long, complex finish. This is a type of wine that I want to drink a lot of. 90 plus points on it. I think it's an outstanding wine. This producer's worth your attention. Next up is an appellation I really love. We talked about Corbières earlier for the rosé. Some of the reds in Corbières can be good, but I really love Corbières Boutinac. Sometimes you'll see the appellation just as Boutinac. This is an appellation dedicated to Carignan. The red wines have to have 30 to 50% of Carignan in the blend. A lot of old vines. Some producers use even more than Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, other Rhone varieties. This is the Famile Fabre Château Fabre Gasparets 2019. 25 bucks, 48% Mourvèdre, about 30% Carignan, and the rest Syrah. If you're a Carignan lover like me, you got to pay attention to Corbières Boutinac. Another appellation is nearby is called Minervois La Livinière. Not plain Minervois, Minervois La Livinière. These are tiny appellations. I think in Boutinac there's only 20 or 30 producers, I usually like Boutonnac's with closer to 50% of Carignan, so I'm excited to see what this smells like here. This is meaty, strawberry, blackberry, a lot of sage, garrigue notes. Fans of Château to Pop are gonna get off on this nose. Pepper, spice, super complex. This is full-bodied, yet creamy. The tannins, again, are pretty round. It's got a little more acidity that you would find in some Château de Pops. It's along the similar style. I'm a solid 90 points on it. I think it's delicious. I think actually it might even be a little bit better than the Domaine de Cabrol, but the Cabrol is the type of wine that I want to drink, so I ticked it up a little bit higher. Okay, our last wine in the Languedoc. We're going to one of the newest appellations, and that appellation is called Terrasses du Larzac. It was only approved to be its own appellation in 2014. High elevation, the vineyards go up to 400 meters, so we're talking well over 1,400 feet. It's actually quite beautiful, except there's a highway running right through the appellation. Syrah does exceptionally well there. They are GSM blends, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, although you see producers making wines with mostly Syrah. I think 100% Syrah might be allowed, or 80%. This is one of the better producers. This is the Domaine de la Réserve d'Eau. The La Réserve d'Eau, Terrasses du Larzac 2020. This is a biodynamic producer and an organic producer. This comes in at 25 bucks. And if you are a hardcore wine geek, you know that biodynamic organic wines are usually coming at a premium price these days. To get this kind of wine, 25 bucks, I'm excited. The wines of Terrasses du Larzac do have a distinct style, in my opinion. When I was in the Languedoc Roussillon a couple months ago, we did a big press tasting in the morning, and almost everybody agreed that the strongest flight was Terrasses du Larzac. Almost all the wines showed exceptionally well. Let's give this a smell. Gorgeous. Violets. I know that this wine is like 60% Syrah, the rest Grenache and Mourvedre. Gorgeous nose. It's just like violets, meat, blackberry, literally like thyme and sage. It's got like all those kind of savory characteristics. It has like this nice blackberry, even blueberry fruit. Even has this pencil shaving quality. Tannins are round, creamy. This is a hell of a wine. For me, I'm a solid 93 points on this wine, and for a wine that's 25 bucks, I think it's well worth your time. It tastes like a minimal intervention wine stripped down a little bit, yet however, it's not funky at all in a way. It's fruity, yet complex. This is a wine I think you should highly seek out, especially if you like reds. I have a couple Syrah videos coming up, which I'm really excited about. This gets me even more excited to do the Syrah video. Let's move on. Okay, we're transitioning from the Languedoc to the Roussillon, so there's an abridged appellation. We have the Domaine Gayda. This is the Figure Libre Freestyle 2021 Vin Rouge red wine Freestyle. This is a Pays d'Oc. This is a geographical indication that includes both the Languedoc and Roussillon. Pays in French literally means country, so country of the Occitans, so the kind of people that live through that area. A lot of times Pays d'Oc wines are cheap. This is inexpensive, but it's not a cheap wine. It runs in 18 bucks, 45% Syrah, 30% Grenache Noir, 15% Mourvedre, 10% Carignan. I'm excited to taste this wine. This is organic. I know this producer pretty well. I've visited them before, but I've not tasted this wine. I know that this episode is heavily focused more on Rhone varieties. There are some Bordeaux blends being made down there in the Languedoc that I think are outstanding, especially looking Malpère. I also tasted an excellent one from the Rothschild family in Limoux. It's a still Limoux. It was just a straight Bordeaux blend, pretty darn exceptional. Let's give this a go here. Just smells like a Côte d'Or village. Strawberry, pepper, meat, sour cherry. It actually smells way more complex than I expected it to. Has a little violet note, that baked strawberry, that meatiness just really sticks out as a Rhone. 13.5 alcohol. Rhone blends can start to climb up there in alcohol. Actually, it's not nearly as good as the last wine, but for it to stand up and impress me next to this wine, that's saying something. Medium bodied, it has complexity. It actually has the most amount of tannins out of any of this wines. It's pretty grippy. It has character, really reminds me of a super well-made Côte d'Or village. I'm a solid 89 points on it. Maybe could even convince me to go to 90 if I was blind. And at 18 bucks, I think that's exceptional. You're gonna need steak with this wine because it does have some powerful tannins up front. That's really good. I'm pretty impressed. Okay, we're moving over to the Roussillon. The Roussillon is actually known more for sweet wines. 45% of the production in the Roussillon is Vin du Naturel, which we have one here at the end today. However, there are a lot of dry wines being made, usually bigger reds and whites based on Grenache. You're gonna see either Côte de Roussillon or Côte de Roussillon Village. Like I do have here this Mas Becha. This is the Côte de Roussillon Village Patterns 2020. This is Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, 80% Grenache. I actually tasted this in a GSM video, so I'm not gonna taste it here, and it's expensive wine. I think it's like 60 or 70 bucks, but it's an exceptional wine. I really like the Côte Catalan geographical indication. It's looser restrictions. Producers can make single varietal wines. They can make unique wines outside the strict French rules. So that's what we're gonna taste here, and we're gonna start out with, this is the Domaine Vaquer, this is the Exigence, this is the Grenache Noir 2021 Côte Catalan. This comes in at 15 bucks. Lady that makes the wines owns the estate. I was really impressed with some of her wines. I have not tasted this wine though. You know, Grenache is probably my second favorite red wine grape. And if it's good at 15 bucks, I might just lose my Let's give it a go. A little darker than a Grenache than I expect. This has a little bit of that animal characteristic. If you like a little bit of rut, a little bit of armpit funk, which I'm okay with. Still strawberry leather. A little bit of animal meaty horsiness, but it has character for a wine that's 15 bucks. Actually kind of reminds me of some traditional Central Tuscan type wines, on the nose at least. Beautiful. I like it. This wine has a ridiculous amount of character, complexity, weight at 15 bucks. Again, you gotta like Brett. You gotta like some of the stinkiness. You gotta like the smell of your own socks, but man, inexpensive Grenache wines can be quite simple. This has a little bit of power, complexity. I would like the finish to be just a tad longer. The tannins are pretty strong, but man, give me this with some braised beef stew, some beef bourguignon. I'm gonna be in heaven. Hold on a second. I have a high tolerance for Brett, so I love this one. I'm going 91 points on a $15 bottle of wine. I think it's very good. Very good. We're moving on to a couple more esoteric styles of wine. Next, we have another Côte Catalan wine. This is the Domaine de Schistes Rancio Sec. This does not have a vintage. Côte Catalan, 25 bucks. It's a 500 milliliter bottle, not a full bottle. Rancio wines are really unique. What happens is the wines are left in glass demijohns. They're out in the sun. They kind of bake, so to speak. They become rancid, hence Rancio. This is made of Grenache and Macabeo from old vines. 17% alcohol. Sometimes these wines can be fortified. They can be vendu naturel. They can be a little bit sweeter on the drier side. I'm excited. These are not the type of wines that everybody's gonna love. These are very divisive wines. Kind of remind me of some types of Amontillado sherries, some manzanillas. This has it comes out at you just lots of caramel, toffee, nuts. Wow, really just smells awesome. Almost like a dried fig type flavor. Caramel, this is just incredibly complex. But these type of wines for casual wine drinkers that aren't used to this, you know, unlike anything you've ever had, you're gonna have like toffee, just awesome wine. Hold on. This is a divisive wine. A lot of times these wines get scored really high, but people don't really like drinking them. I like drinking this style of wine. It's all mixed nuts on the palate. You gotta think walnut, almond. It has a honey flavor without the sweetness. This is a really dry wine. Really reminds me of the esoteric Malvasia di Bosas from Sardinia, Vernaccia d'Oristanos. With a caveat, I am a hardcore 93 on this wine. I think it's exceptionally complex. You have to like this style, not to everybody's liking. I like the acidity, and at 17 degrees of alcohol, it's not really bothering me so much. Dried meats, charcuterie, cheeses, it's gonna go perfectly. I actually think it might be a good pre-dessert drink as well. Maybe some savory casseroles, it would work out well. I think it's really good. Okay, what the Roussillon is known for, we're gonna taste a Vendu Naturel. Vendu Naturels are fortified sweet wines. They were actually invented or discovered in the Roussillon. Arnaldus de Villanova in the 13th century actually discovered the process of moutage, which is fortifying wine before fermentation is finished. Therefore, you're gonna have a higher alcohol content. You're gonna maintain the sweetness. You get some Vendu Naturel made in neighboring Rhone, some of it in the Languedoc, but the Roussillon is really what it's all about. When you look at the famous Vendu Naturels of the Roussillon, you're gonna look at wines that are named after the villages like Maury, Banyuls, Muscat de Rivesaltes, and Rivesaltes. I've been up on the slopes of all these villages before. It's incredibly steep, incredibly hot. I don't even know how the heck you work there. Banyuls is a unique wine because it's like port. It's a red fortified sweet wine. In theory, an idea, I always want to like that wine more. However, whenever I taste a Rivesaltes, Rivesaltes always blows me away. And we have here the Terrasous Rivesaltes Ambré. Hors d'âge, 18 ans. 18 years. Look at the nice brown color. Terrasous is a cooperative. The Languedoc Roussillon is still dominated by cooperative winemakers. For those of you who don't know, cooperative wineries are made up of a bunch of small producers, small farmers, small families that pool their resources into winemaking facilities. And then they bottle wine under one label, not just their family name. Cooperatives are great. They produce a lot of wine. I think up to 50-60% of wine in France is actually made by cooperative wineries. If you really want to support the small guy, I think you have to support cooperatives because they're all small farmers. I'm super excited about this. Ambré is a style of Rivesaltes that's aged in the barrel. You can see from the nice dark color, it almost looks like whiskey. Again, this is a fortified wine, so this comes in at a whopping 20% alcohol. I tasted this while I was there, and I asked them for a sample for you guys to show you this wine. This got a whopping 95 points in Robert Parker's The Wine Advocate. Let's give this a smell here. Toffee, chocolate brownie, yellow flour, a little bit of meat, dried apricots, dried peaches, raisins, nuts. Smells awesome. It is so creamy, so rich. The Rancio sec, where it wasn't really fruity, this wine is fruity. It also has that sweetness, a lot of dried fruit flavors, dried figs, dried apricots, dried peaches, along with that toffee almond flavor. Even like chocolate brownie that's not sweet, like cacao brownie, I guess, if there was such a thing. Spicy, long. The last night I was there in the Roussillon, we actually had a 5-course dinner where we paired 2 Vendu Naturels with each dish, which is a challenging pairing to have sweet fortified wines with every dish. Some pairings work, some didn't, but I still think that these wines are much more versatile than we give them credit for. Sweet wines are, for me, the most magical transformation from grape into wine in the entire world. There's a reason that these were the wine of kings in the past. Back then, where we didn't have processed sugar like Coca-Cola, Sprite. If you could have a beverage that was so naturally sweet, complex, delicious, and it gets you high, no wonder it's a wine of kings. I'm not quite 95 on it, but I am 94 points. To me, this is the best wine in the setup. Again, it's not for everyone. This is 45 bucks, a little more expensive, but again, sweet wines are a little bit more expensive. There's a little bit of heat because it is a fortified wine. You just got to know what you're getting into. I think fans of whiskey are really going to love it. So tell me, do you drink wines from the Languedoc Roussillon? Do you have any favorite producers? I'd love to hear. Drop it in the comments below. I'll see you soon. I'm drinking it.